So I'm Tom Shepard here in Historic Pullman, and now the Pullman National Monument. And I'm with my friend Ed Beyer, who's a lifelong resident of Pullman. And we're going to talk here about Pullman of today and Pullman of yesterday. Ed can talk about yesterday's Pullman, and we'll both chime in and talk about today's Pullman. Ed, how long have you lived in this community?
Well, 77 years.
So your whole life
Yeah.
was spent here?
Yeah.
Were you born in one of the Pullman houses
No,
or in a hospital?
no, I was born at Roseland Community.
Okay. So that would have been what year?
1938.
38, okay, so before
April.
World War II.
Before World War II, yes.
Uh-huh.
Pre-war.
Yeah.
I mean, pre-war, baby.
Uh-huh. So, and where did your parents live back at that time?
Well, my mother lived in Pullman.
Right.
I met my father at Molly's restaurant on 103rd, where the site of where the Percy Julian School is. By the flagpole was the exact spot where my mother met my father.
Near 103rd and
Because that was my mother's station. She was a waitress at the restaurant.
Oh, okay. You remember when there were restaurants in Pullman?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because today
Yes,
there's none except McDonald's.
We have nothing today.
Well, we got the Cal Harbor and we got McDonald's.
Yes.
But in the olden days...
Well, there was the Jolly Ann,
Right.
Charlie Carly. We had Pezzaventos. We had Parisi's. We had the restaurant that was in the annex, the Pullman Annex restaurant.
Right.
And then there was on the corner of 111th and Champlain, I forgot, it was a small family restaurant.
Right.
That was there. I ate there on several occasions.
Right.
But my folks, I lived with my parents. My mother was an Italian who was born in the Hotel Florence, the Pullman Hospital.
Oh.
And when her mother died in 1919, my mother's dad sent her to his sister in Italy, and my mother was there until she was in her teenage years. When she came back from Italy, she came back here because this is where the family was, and my mother had 4 brothers, and she was the baby. That was the reason that she was.
What's her family name?
At that time, my mother's last name was Pericolosi.
And there were a lot of Italians in Pullman at that time, right?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
We had the Remigis, we had the Mistros, the Brazzalis, the Carollos, the Frigos,
Right.
the Brazzalis, the Allegruccis, the Modolos,
Rosati.
the Canalias,
Yeah.
the Verzins. Oh my
A lot of
God.
Valentis.
Tons of Valentis. Yes, Valenti and Friegel we had Lino Friegel,
Yeah.
who was the accordionist for WGN for years. His parents lived right next door to me. I remember Lino as a kid. Lino was, as a kid, was a childhood prodigy on the accordion.
Yeah.
I remember him.
We had others. Bertoli was in the neighborhood.
The Bertolis were the Frank and Irene and their kids, Frankie and Johnny.
Uh-huh.
They had they were from a musical family.
Yeah.
The Bertolis had their accordion school
115th
on 115th Street, right across the street from the police department.
Right.
Then I remember there was on 115th Street. There was George. I remember George Doty. Always, whenever I saw him, he had a cigar in his mouth.
He was the undertaker.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
Tell us about what was Jolly Inn like back in those days. Jolly Inn was a
Jolly Inn,
famous
they
neighborhood
had
place.
in the back on my parents' on St. Lawrence, when you went to the south end of the alley, there was it came to a T. You could only go to the left or to the right, east or west.
Right.
And the Jolien had a great gigantic chicken coop there. They raised their own chickens.
Oh, wow.
The chicken and the fish at Jolien was superb.
Oh, yeah.
It was fabulous. Fabulous.
I've never had chicken like that anywhere since.
That's right.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
very good.
Yep.
It was a famous neighborhood place. A lot of people.
Well.
down in there.
Well, my mother was when my mother was when she had come back from Italy. She lived here. She lived with Ines Basil. Ines Basil was on Forestville. I remember her family. They slowly, as they eventually, as years went by, they passed away. But I remember all the Ranzanis. The Ranzanis. Raymond Ranzani is still living. Ragoni. Ray Ragoni.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
He's got to be my age. I have pictures of him when we were kids.
Yeah. Now, if I asked you in a couple of sentences, what would you say the big difference between those days you're talking way back then and today?
Well, the people back then were a family. If somebody got sick or there was a homogeneous family
Kind of a
community.
small town community
yes,
flavor?
It was. We don't have it now.
Oh.
We don't have it now. The people that are here now are of diverse or ethnic backgrounds, diverse interests, and the situation is as it is right now. There have been people who moved here in Pullman that were here for the period of time they were here and left, thank God. And then other people moved into this neighborhood, and we have people here now of now a minority, ethnic minority that I'm sorry they weren't here in the 50s and the 60s or even in the 40s, because we got some wonderful people here.
Sure.
But they're far and few today. It was not like it once was.
Right.
When we used to have the picnics here in Pullman, and the gatherings, and we used to have parades. There were people with cars, and
the
we
politicians, the
had,
baseball
we had
teams.
Alderman Loophole.
Right.
I remember him very well.
Yeah.
Yes, and we had people like Mario Avignon, and his wife Peggy.
Right.
And we had the Harveys who lived over. They came into Pullman. They started the spark to get the community going.
With the sons,
Then we had the Crisaros and the Rosati's and
Jimmy Rosati,
the Carleys. And Arnold Bader and his wife were very, very, very prominent people. And when Pullman in 1960, they were going to tear it down and make a industrial park here. Right. Everybody gathered at the Greenstone Church. That church was filled to the brim with people.
Yeah.
And no, we were not going to let it go.
Good.
And I remember shortly after that, I got a letter on the mail inviting me to a gathering that was to take place in the VFW hall.
Used
right
to be
here.
Right there.
Yes.
What the visitor center today.
Which is the visitor center.
Right.
And I remember Mario Avignon. There was the Harveys.
Nickerson.
Nickersons were there.
Chris